Hi there! Welcome to the Gardens and Graveyards channel. My name is Charisma, and today we're meeting in the studio and we're going to address a couple of different ferns. And this fern in this super fun bird cage just needs a little maintenance, and I thought I'd just talk you through how I groom up this fern and just help it make it look more beautiful for the next growing season. And then this beautiful little bird's nest fern I just picked up at a garden nursery recently. So this is called Crispy Wave. Super fun. So we're gonna do that together. So what I'm gonna do is get my tea out of the way, and I'm gonna groom this guy first and get it out of here. It should be pretty to the point, simple, easy to do. I'm just gonna take my pruners. I'm gonna kind of, first off, just kind of comb through it and see where there's some dead pieces, and then I follow the dead pieces along the vine to see if there's any new growth, or if it's dead all the way down. So it's dead on the top, so I'm just gonna cut off where it's dead, remove it, and then I can get on the inside and see, rather than going back and forth over and over. So we just kind of go through and pick out anything that looks dead, and like this one has some green foliage right here, so I'm just gonna cut right above the green foliage. And all that's gonna do is cause it to branch out a little bit, and that'll be totally fine. Or like something like this where there's a lot of stem and not a whole lot of growth. I'll just cut it back so that, see that how there's just a couple of needles here and there, and the rest of it's just all like vine or stem. I want to try to encourage it to get bushy, so if it's just super spindly like that, I'll cut it back. It's usually because it's stretching for light. This fern is maybe a year old. I think it's probably a year old at this point. So there's not a whole lot of dead or damaged growth. It's always just a good idea to just kind of go through and see if you notice anything. This bird cage kind of sits on the floor, so it's not as easy to see like some of the details when I'm watering it. So it tends to get a little bit neglected in that way. So like that just came out just super easy. Anything like that, obviously, doesn't need to be around. Like that one's like really weird. Yeah. All right, so then what I want to do is just sort of like untangle it a little bit and give everybody a little bit of airflow. Make sure that she knows that she can grow more. Okay. And then I'm going to go inside and look closer to the crown at anything that looks dead and get in there with my pruners. Doing it in a cage like this, or having a plant in a cage like this, makes things a little bit more difficult because you can't like access them as, you can't access all of it as easy. But it's also super fun because it's so cute. The other thing is removing some of this moss. This is why I don't like covering the rim. I have some fresh moss here. But like when the plant, or when the moss covers the rim, it tends to end up looking like this, all gross, because through the year you're watering and it gets wet and soaks up the soil and just kind of gets yucky looking. So that is why I'm not a fan of doing it that way. In a commercial setting it might be different, but at home I just prefer to not cover that rim so I don't have to deal with it. And then the moss lasts much longer. So I'm just going in here and looking for anything that doesn't look green and it looks like tan colored. It's dead. It just falls right out. It's not connected to anything and needs to come out of there. So this one, there's a, oops, okay. Some of this is just natural, because all plants will, you know, naturally go through cycles of losing their leaves. And some of it has to do with the plant being too wet or too dry. This particular plant tends to stay very wet, but if I let it dry out at all, it really pouts. So I just let it be really wet. I don't know. Mix up a little bit of soil, because there's some plants that tend to eat soil, and what that means is after a year of them being in a pot, the soil will have gone down, not from compaction necessarily, but they like the roots eat the soil. It's crazy. And there's no soil in the drip tray. I double checked to see if there's any roots coming out. There's still a lot of soil all around the root ball. Let's see. I always add perlite, a good amount of perlite, because I grow in Oregon on the coast in a zone 9A, and my home stays very cool all year long. We have large evergreens that surround the house, so even in the most summery summer, our house will still be in kind of dark, cool, damp shade. And we're also very humid. Like, we can grow moss like nobody else. So I like to put a lot of perlite in my soil so that my plants can be well draining no matter what kind of plant it is. So even though this fern likes to have a lot of her roots like damp all the time or wet all the time, I still want to make sure that I'd rather water more than have it just sitting in having it sitting in soggy, icky oil. Soggy, icky soil. So I'm just going to top dress this container. I don't know if you can see that. With some fresh soil. So I'm just going to go in there and just sort of put some fresh soil right over the top of the container, right around her roots. I don't really want to bury the crown of the plant, but I do want to get some of that fresh soil around. And then, and that's it for her. And then the other thing that I'll do is add a little bit of this fresh moss where there's like missing moss or just discolored moss. Just kind of go back in there and give it a little fresh look. Look over here. Missing a little there. Ugh. Moss is dry and messy. Okay, and that's it. She's ready to rock and roll for another year and looking fresh and clean and beautiful. I am contemplating putting her in a different location with a little bit more sun. We'll see how that goes. Maybe she'll be bigger or maybe she'll hate me. I don't know, but we'll play. It's been in a east-facing window below the window for the past year. So not a ton of light, just a lot of like bright indirect light. All right, so now we're gonna do this little fern. And I'm just gonna bump it up in size. So just use the same potting medium, making sure that there's enough soil in the container. Like this. We just make a little space. And, oops, a little fern here. We'll just pop her out. Looks pretty good. Not like root bound at all, so I don't really want to mess with the roots. So I'm just going to put it right there, make sure it gets planted right at the same soil level that it was planted in this container. This fern has been sitting by the front door for maybe like a week now. And I like to kind of quarantine my plants for a week to 10 days. Just to make sure that I didn't miss anything, you know, bringing it home from the nursery or someone else's house or something like that. Just to make sure that I'm not introducing any disease or bugs into the rest of my house collection, my houseplant collection. All right, so let's see if I can take this sticker off or not. I like to, if I can, save the sticker. I'm just gonna put it right over this was a container for a rubber tree that I bought recently. It's not what's in here anymore, so I like to just put a new label over it. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just gives me a reminder of which plant that really is. And then anything else, like I could just cross this off. It's the fern. The crispy fern. What does it say? Crispy wave. Alright, so then this one, and then I have a little drip tray that I can sit inside of. This one's a little old. It's fine. And then I want to stage this so that the fern sits up here instead of down inside. So I'm going to grab some styrofoam. And just place a couple pieces of styrofoam down here on the bottom. See if that's enough. Oh, it needs to be taller. Try this one. Try this one. There we go. And then I can just take these little pieces of styrofoam, put them around the inside on the, like right here, to stabilize the plant. Want it to be on the outside of the drip tray because we don't want them to get all wet and yucky. It's not fun to handle later on down the road. But we do that, and then the plant is nice and strong in there. It's not gonna like wobble around. And then I can put some wet down this moss before I messed with it, but that's okay. We can just put some fresh moss, fresh dried moss around the rim. It just gives everything a little bit of a finished look. There we go. And, you know, some people will really baby their ferns and keep a spray bottle nearby and help them with their humidity levels. I don't have time for that, and I never remember to do it. So I try not to have ferns that require that level of attention. Just because I know my own personality well enough to know that I'm not going to do that. Found my watering can. I filled it up in the sink and forgot to bring it with me. Okay, so I just do want to make sure that it's all watered in and the roots are nice and settled. I try not to water the top of the crown in my ferns specifically because they tend to get rot pretty easy. I also catch things like perlite. So I'm just gonna pull, just making sure that that's clean in there. Just like little pieces of perlite stuck in there. I'll leave that in there. Okay, great. So there we go. Couple of ferns taken care of. Oh, we're getting down to the last bits of house plant collection, maintenance, and care. I'm kind of like really looking forward to being done with houseplants. Are you done with playing with houseplants? We definitely have a few more houseplant videos coming out because there's more to do, and it's feeling really good to just have it done. I like having them all done and knowing that they're gonna be good for the rest of the year, but oof, I just can't wait to go outside. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you are celebrating your life, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.